I'm going to go through using the Windows 8.1 Media Creation Tool with a Windows 8 or Windows 8.1 OEM license. I'll use the Windows 8.1 Media Creation Tool to download an ISO, and then I'll use Rufus to convert this ISO into a bootable USB. And then I'll use this USB to install Windows 8.1 with a UEFI BIOS with SecureBoot enabled. One of the first things you're going to ask when you have a new Windows 8 or Windows 8.1 computer is, where is my product key? There is no sticker affixed to the side of your system stating the product key, like there were with earlier versions of Windows. What's actually happened for Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 is that the product key is embedded within the UEFI BIOS. This is a Microsoft digital marker, which contains the product key. When the correct installation media is used, then the product key is automatically input. It's stated that the end user doesn't actually need to know the product key. However, I disagree, and I would prefer to record it, especially if there's product activation issues. There is one utility called Read Write Everything, and if you go to Access ACPI tables and then select the MSDM tab, then you will get your 25-digit product key. If you do not have an MSDM tab, then you have no Windows 8.0 or Windows 8.1 product key. So now we're actually going to download the Windows 8.1 Media Creation Tool. And I'll just save it, and then I'll launch it from the Downloads folder. And I'll accept the user account control prompt. This new downloader is far superior to the old downloaders for Windows 8.0 and Windows 8.1 without Update 1. It allows you to download the ISO without inputting a product key, which means it can be used with the OEM license. So we've got three options: language, edition, and architecture. And selecting language is your own preference, but the most difficult part is selecting your edition. If your system is working and you can boot it up, then you can right click the start button and select system, and under system you'll see your Windows edition. You'll see this is Windows 8.1, and you'll see that it's 64-bit. And also under Windows activation, you'll see that it's an OEM license. And in almost all cases, apart from very low-end tablets, you want to select a 64-bit architecture. Now I recommend saving the ISO directly opposed to using the Windows Media Creation Tool to create a bootable USB. The ISO is large, it's about 4 GB in size, so it's better to have this on an external hard drive. You can easily make a bootable USB from the ISO, but you can't get the ISO back from the bootable USB. I've sped up the recording 64 times while downloading this ISO. You can see how long it's taking by looking at the system clock to the bottom right. I just want to mention the Windows edition again. If you have Windows 8.1, Windows 8.1N, Windows 8.1 single language, Windows 8.1 Professional, or Windows 8.1 Professional N, then the downloader will work fine for you. There are 3 other editions, however. The first one is Windows 8.1 with Bing, and also Windows 8.1 with Bing single language. These do not have an ISO and cannot be downloaded using this utility, and I'll mention more about these later. Also, if you have Windows 8.1 with Media Center, then you should note that this is a retail upgrade, and reinstallation of it requires your original Windows 8.1 edition to be installed. Under System, the edition will say Windows 8.1 Professional with Media Center. You therefore will be unable to determine your original edition with system. So now the download has completed and it's saved the ISO to my downloads folder, so I'll just select finish to exit. And now that we have the Windows 8.1 ISO, we'll need a utility to convert it to a bootable USB. And I recommend using Rufus for this. So I'm just going to save it, and it will also be in downloads. Rufus doesn't have an installer, but you'll need to accept the user account control to run it. The first thing we need to do is check the device at the top, and then load the Windows 8.1 ISO. And what we want to make sure is that we have the GPT partition scheme for UEFI computer, and the file system has to be FAT32. Once we have these options selected, we can select Start, and Rufus will create the bootable USB. If the file format is NTFS, then the bootable USB will be rejected by a newer security technology known as SecureBoot. SecureBoot only lets verified code boot. It will reject anything else. This prevents malware from starting up and greatly increases the security of most end-user systems. GPT is a newer partition scheme which should be used over MBR, as it supports larger hard drives, allows more partitions, and is more reliable. And now my bootable USB is done, so I'm just going to close Rufus, and now I'm going to shut down the computer. And now what I want to do is enter the BIOS setup. So to do this, I tap F2 repeatedly while powering up my Dell system. If your system is not a Dell, you'll need to press a different function key or combination. So this is the first screen of the BIOS setup, and it's mainly just gives me information about the system. This would be an ideal place for the Windows 8.1 edition pre-installed to be printed. However, it's not. It's just a suggestion which would make installation much easier. So I'm moving to the right and I'm going to advance, and I'm just checking this SATA operation is AHCI, and I'm going to go to boot now, and I want to make sure fast boot is minimal. I want a UEFI boot and I do not want a legacy boot, and I want secure boot mode to be standard. And you should have these as defaults. So I'm going to exit saving the changes, and the Dell BIOS will show again. And I'm going to tap F12 this time repeatedly to enter the boot menu. So I'm going to select the USB flash drive and I'm going to press enter. And Windows will boot from this USB flash drive. If you don't have a Dell, then the function key will be different, or it'll be a different key combination. If you get to the Windows login screen, then you went straight by the BIOS, and you'll need to power off your computer and then power it on again, pressing the right combination key. So the Windows setup has launched from the USB. You can see it's got through SecureBoot. So the first step is selecting the language and regional settings, and mine are all set to English UK. And you'll see that as soon as the language and regional settings are selected, we've got to the license agreement screen. This means the UEFI BIOS embedded system locked pre-installation key has automatically been input, i.e. we are not prompted to input a product key. So we can continue with the install, but I'm just using this as a demonstration, so I'm not going to go through the entire Windows install. I'm going to exit the setup now, but you see that the bootable USB is working and it's using the Windows 8.1 OEM system locked pre-installation key. So I've just repeated the process, except this time I've used the Windows 8.1 single language ISO. So I'm just going to boot from it using the UEFI BIOS with SecureBoot enabled, and we managed to boot from it fine. And again, the Windows 8.1 setup should launch from this bootable USB. Unfortunately, it says nothing about the addition on this first screen, and when you go to install now, you'll simply be asked for a product key. It won't even mention the fact that there's an OEM product key. You'll just be stuck on this product key screen. Now others will instruct you to input a generic product key to bypass the screen, but in the end you'll just be stuck with product activation issues. Now, I've just brought up a Windows Vista installation screen. I just want to mention that Windows Vista installation media was much better, as 164-bit ISO had all 64-bit editions of Windows Vista. If Microsoft had done this for Windows 8.1, it would save a lot of the issues. And now I want to bring up the other issue, which is Windows 8.1 with Bing. The problem is that users don't even know they have Windows 8.1 with Bing. You can see from this Inspiron 15 laptop that Dell only sell it with Windows 8.1 with Bing. Amazon say they're selling it with Windows 8.1. And then there are some models that Dell sell with different editions of Windows 8.1 depending on their actual configuration. So I've stressed the importance of determining your Windows 8.1 edition, but I should mention that shops are selling Windows 8.1 with Bing as Windows 8.1, and also Windows 8.1 single language as Windows 8.1. In fact, the problem is that one of the editions is called Windows 8.1, and often the entire Windows 8.1 product family is referred to as Windows 8.1. And finally, to top things off, the only indication of a Windows 8 or 8.1 OEM license is due to these stickers, which are affixed usually to the bottom of the system. You've got a Windows 8 sticker, but this can mean a Windows 8.1 or 8.1N or 8.1 single language or 8.1 with Bing or 8.1 single language with Bing license. Or you've got the professional sticker, which can mean the 8.1 professional or the 8.1 professional N license. So if your system can't boot or you have upgraded to the Media Center edition, you've got 5 ISOs to try for Windows 8.0/8.1 Home. Actually, you've only got 3 because 2 don't exist. And for the Windows 8.0 or 8.1 Professional, you've got 2 ISOs to try. And bearing in mind that each ISO is approximately 4 GB to download. This gives you 5 times 4 GB ISOs, 20 GB to download. This can take a long time on a slow connection, and then you can still find that none of these will work because you have a Bing edition. So as mentioned, having one 64-bit Windows 8.1 ISO for clean installation of all editions would be much better than Microsoft's current offering. And I also want to mention one other limitation, and that's the fact that the downloader is a .exe, which means it requires a Windows operating system to run. Also, it requires Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, or Windows 10. For some unknown reason, Microsoft have even restricted Windows Vista users from using the tool to download Windows 8.1. This limits its distribution significantly. It also makes life very difficult for Apple Mac Boot Camp users and Linux users who wish to migrate to Windows or install Windows.